Hello. Today I want to discuss the importance of consent in our sexual relationships. I just want to first start off with a disclaimer. And I guess you want to say, like, maybe a trigger warning, because I know some things that may be brought up in this video could possibly stir up some emotions, some experiences you may have had in the past, or um, something that you've seen or done, and it could trigger a very strong response. So I just wanted to put that out there first before viewing this video so that you have an opportunity to make the best decision for you if you want to view this video or not. Alrighty, so the reason why I wanted to do a video on the importance of consent in our sexual relationships, because a lot of times when we think of consent, we think of something as general as um, I'm around someone I don't know, or I just met them, and um, if I'm saying I don't want to do something, then they should just respect that and keep it moving, right? But let's really talk about when we're in relationships with people. We've built a relationship to some degree with someone. We still have a right to consent or not consent to something. And so that's something that I wanted to really focus on today. And the reason why this is so important, because again, when our ability to consent to something is compromised, even if we're in some type of long-term relationship or committed relationship or marriage, that's still a problem, and it really breaks down the fact that trust is now an issue. Our boundaries are now being threatened, and it definitely can diminish true intimacy between two people. So that's why this is just a really important topic to discuss. And this is also a really important topic to discuss with people in your life who are younger, like the youth, talking to them about what consent looks like for ourselves, what we can and should be able to not consent to, but then also teaching our youth what they should not be doing and violating other people's spaces as well. This needs to be taught early on, as early as when our children learn how to talk and they're interacting with other people. They need to understand what boundaries look like, even if someone doesn't specifically state a boundary, or if it's like implied, knowing what that looks like and how to respect it. And so that's another reason why this topic is so important. So if we think about consent is like the foundation of a healthy, respectful, fulfilling sexual relationship. I mean, when you don't have these things, then unfortunately we're not going to always feel safe. We're not going to always feel valued and in control of our own bodies. So that's why this is so important. And so when we think about the areas in which this makes this such an important topic, when we talk about autonomy, like being able to respect the autonomy of others, first of all, everyone has a right to decide what happens to their own body at any given moment. So if at 11 a.m. you said yes, but at 11:05 you said no, you have a right to do that. And no one can shame you or guilt you into doing something because you decided to change your mind. Now, is there an issue of, I don't like the fact that you're going back and forth? You were here at this moment and then you were here at another moment. Yeah, you can think that all day long, but that person still has a right to change their mind. And that's why it's called autonomy. Consent acknowledges and honors the right to say no or to say yes. Um, when we're able to consent or not consent, in our relationships, then we're building trust and emotional safety with each other. When partners feel heard, when they feel respected, it can truly strengthen the emotional intimacy and the trust between the two people. Another thing that's really important when it comes to consent is that it prevents harm and trauma. So when we're all on the same page, when yes is yes and no is no, there's a very small chance of harm and trauma coming to that relationship because it's very much specified and it's stated, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. So non-consensual experiences can lead to some seriously deep emotional and psychological wounds. And ensuring enthusiastic consent helps prevent coercion, pressure, and also harm. Okay, so when I say enthusiastic consent, you know what I'm saying? So again, if someone has asked you to do something and you don't want to do it, and your whole body language is rejecting them, or the way you're speaking, you sound very timid, you sound very mild, especially if that's not your typical, way of speaking up, then that shows that there's not really a level of excitement. And the other person should be aware of that enough to stop and say, hey, it appears that you're not fully comfortable with this. If you're not, it's okay, to stop. And it's also okay to talk about it if you do want to talk about this more, if it's something that you want to experience. But let's make sure that you're fully ready and that you're sure. Because another elephant in the room that we need to talk about is sometimes we think that our partners are aroused because we're seeing some physical, signs that they're turned on, but they may not be fully ready in their minds and in their hearts. Okay, so just because their bodies are naturally doing what it's supposed to do as a sexual being doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to receive the sexual experience. So that's very, very important too. A lot of times when we're fully ready and we're ready to consent, to a sexual act, believe it or not, that's going to enhance the pleasure and the connection. When both partners are fully on board and engaged, the experience is more enjoyable, is leading to deeper intimacy and satisfaction. And I would hope that that's what you want, and not to be in a situation where you're just not even fully enjoying each other. If one person is not really in it and then you're excited about it, that's totally imbalanced, and that takes away from the true pleasure and connection of the experience. Also, true consent allows for open communication. So, discussing your boundaries and your desires can create a space where both of you can express what you like, what you don't like, and what you feel comfortable exploring. Another thing is that consent establishes mutual responsibility. So both partners need to be able to share the responsibility of checking in and ensuring comfort and respecting boundaries. It's not just one sided. We cannot leave this all up to one person to say, what it is that they like, or the other person just saying, well, they said yes, but you're visibly, you see that they're not really into it. That's not okay. So we still have a responsibility on both ends to make sure that everyone is comfortable and everyone feels safe and secure. And then the last thing, are just the legal and ethical standards that go along with consent. So, beyond morality, what I've talked about in this video, and relationships, consent is a legal requirement. Okay. And without it, sexual activity should not even be happening and could even be considered assault. So these are things to really consider. We're living in a different time now. Maybe some years ago, there were a lot of things happening, and things were being swept under the rug, and people weren't saying anything about it. But in this day and time, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to be aware of how we're making others feel, and for us to also speak up if we are in a space where we feel like that consent has been compromised. We need to say something. This is very important because this is the only way that we'll get to a point where we're all on the same page as it pertains to consent in our sexual relationships. So I love to hear your thoughts about this. Again, it's one of those topics that can definitely trigger, some old wounds for some of you, and it could just take you back to a time. I was really conscious about the different wording too that I used in this video, again, because obviously I don't want the video to get banned, but then also too, I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of those that are watching this could have some residual, effects from the things that I'm talking about. But I definitely love to hear your thoughts about, when it comes to consent in our sexual relationships and our responsibilities to ourselves and each other, to make this thing very clear. It's very important. Alrighty, you guys.